How to handle high school course selection. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. So many students enter into the formal course registration or course selection process during their high school years passively, very, very passively. And it's frankly pathetic. Now, part of the problem is many high schools disempower students throughout the process and make students feel like they really have no say and no rights throughout the process. But whether you go to a public school or a private school, an American school or an international school, I want you to handle the high school course selection process from a position of proactivity, from a position of assertiveness. Do not just lie there. Do not just grin and bear it. You have to actually engage in the process of high school course selection and not just simply be assigned your courses for next year. Now, again, depending on where you go to school, what time of year this happens, who it happens with, if it's in a large group, if it's you one-on-one with a teacher or an advisor or a counselor, will depend, of course. But regardless of if it's done online, in person, in a group, one-on-one, with parents, without parents, don't simply take what they're giving you and move on with your merry day. Instead, engage your mind, think long and hard, reflect, and if you have concerns about your courses for next year or the course offerings you are being proposed to take, you need to speak up. You need to, at least figuratively, metaphorically, raise your hand, if not literally do so, and ask questions about whether or not this is the right path for you. Now, this is especially true if you are aiming for a selective college or university admission letter in your future. But I would frankly use the same advice for any student, no matter their academic level and no matter their post-secondary plans, whether you're in 9th grade or whether you're going into 12th grade and therefore an 11th grader. You need to not simply just take whatever your school is recommending for you or assigning you. You need to think, and then you need to act, because you very well may need to advocate for yourself and actually request or jump through hoops, depending on the school, in order to get a different offering for next year. So a classic example is you got an A in English for the first semester or first 2 trimesters of the year in high school you currently find yourself in. And it's pretty easy for you, but you're being recommended to take the same level of English next year, just the next grade up. But you feel, or maybe your parents feel, or maybe you know just from watching my videos, that maybe it's a better idea to actually take a more rigorous version of English next year. Maybe you're in the standard level now and you want to maybe consider the honors level next year. Or maybe you're in honors or gifted and talented English this year and you're getting an A and you're having a great time in the class, or you're having no problem earning the A, and therefore you think, or someone is telling you maybe you could actually have no problem getting at least a B in AP Lang next year. There are many different combinations or permutations of what I could tell you you're experiencing right now. I obviously don't know you, but what I will say is, if you're being recommended by your school, your counselor, your advising office, your dean, your mentor, whatever they call it, your homeroom teacher at your school, or whoever is doing the course registration or selection with you, the scheduler, that you should just remain in that same level of English that you are in this year, next year, many students will just not say a peep and they'll just move on. And that will be that. But I don't want you to be that student. I want you to speak up. The first person you need to speak up to is yourself, in your own mind, and ask yourself, does this make sense for me and my goals and what I want and what I can achieve? Is this putting an artificial ceiling on my potential as a student, as a person in the future, or as a professional? And then once you ask yourself those questions, then maybe bring it to a parent or a guardian and ask what they think, or an individual in your family thinks, or a sibling or a friend or an aunt or an uncle. And then maybe with a little bit more confidence, then the next day you can come back if they give you a night to think about it or some time, and talk to that person who presented you with the actual course recommendations for next year, and ask, can I actually do something else? Or maybe if you have the courage to ask right away when you see it and you're like, I don't like this, where do I go to actually change this? It is, again, extremely intimidating if you're a 14, 15, 16-year-old person to question authority. I know that. I don't want you to be impolite. I don't want you to be disrespectful, but I do want you to advocate for yourself. And if we're thinking long-term about college admissions, and we're thinking about just taking the most rigorous coursework that you can handle and succeed in with B minuses or better, you have to be proactive when you get whatever courses are recommended to you. Now, if you are at a school where courses are not recommended to you, and you just get the pick of the litter and you can just pick whatever you want, that also puts a big onus on you to really think long and hard about what makes the most sense for next year, considering how you're doing so far this year, where you're coming into contact with too much rigor, maybe where you're coming into contact with too little rigor. And, some schools may give you absolutely no advising and just give you free reign of how to pick. That also is sort of a dangerous situation. You shouldn't just, do what your friends are doing, or, take the advice of kids in the grade ahead of you just because you're friends with them. You need to think what's right for you, what's right for your goals, what's right for your future, what's right for your college admissions aspirations or your post-secondary aspirations. This has to be something that you really grapple with in order to find yourself in the right classes for you next year. Now, you have heard me mention, if you're doing well, particularly high A's in a particular level of a course this year, I very much recommend students consider taking the more rigorous version of that same discipline next year. Now, will that always be allowed at your institution or your high school? Maybe not, but you can, of course, ask. There is an old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I want you to be the squeaky wheel throughout your entire high school course selection process, regardless of what it looks like at your individual high school. Ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question. And if anyone tries to shut you down from asking questions, or shutting your parents down from asking questions throughout the process, they're a bad actor. You're allowed to ask questions. Now, I will say, especially if you're a 10th grader or older, don't let your parents be the tip of the spear. Don't let them be the ones asking questions for you. You should advocate for yourself. This is an adult skill. You want to learn how to do this. So even if the concerns are mainly theirs, meaning your parents, or mainly yours, take ownership of the fact that you are the one that's going to be taking the classes you're going to be taking next year. So you should be the one raising questions if you have any concerns about what courses you've been recommended or what options may be available to you, so that you can chart a positive trajectory for the remainder of not just next year, but your entire time in high school, as you look ahead to, like I said earlier, potentially selective college admissions later on, or whatever your goals may be after you graduate high school. Don't just sit there. Sit up, stand up, and take ownership of the high school course selection process at your school. Again, I know it can look very different depending on where you go, but regardless of what it looks like, be your own best advocate. No one else will be. Even if they are saying they're being your best advocate, you are the one who has to become your best advocate. And you will have a better outcome if you are. My name is Craig Meister. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. If you want to learn about me and how you can work with me one-on-one, I again encourage you to go to my website. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.